Clevedon Library was the Thursday stop for the BBC Radio Bristol's afternoon show recently. And during the 2 hours they spent in the town, they spoke to a number of recently published authors.
Hello, Clevedon. Hello. We've got a crowd already. We're broadcasting live from Clevedon Library, so opposite the famous Curzon Cinema. Come on down and see us, or listen to it all on the radio as well for the next couple of hours. So, coming up today, we have a top lineup, among them Mark Allen from the BBC's Antiques Roadshow in just a moment. And my first one is sitting right next to me, Mark Allen, one of the experts on the BBC's Antiques Roadshow Sunday night guaranteed viewing. He's also a writer of books about antiques. He has a brand new one out just now. He's a consultant and lecturer. Wow, what else can I say about you, Mark? Hello.
I think that's enough, thank you.
Now, you have a brand new book out. It's sitting here in front of us. Allen's Antiques Almanac. Nice name.
Yeah, well, I wanted to be at the top of every list. It was sort of like the old plumber at the top of the lineage ads. No, I was very lucky that the AAA worked out like that. But no, that wasn't the point of it, obviously. What I wanted to do was kind of, in conjunction with my publishers, was devise a format that we could write every year. And I thought, what better than to collect, great stories from the worlds of antiques, quirky things, things about, expensive paintings, and just things that interested me. So a lot of these stories have a very personal take, and what to do with my life in antiques, really.
That's amazing. Now, Mark, it's such an enduring show. What is it about it, though, Antiques Roadshow? Is it the fact that we're desperate to find out if something is hugely valuable or worth nothing? Or is it people's faces when they find that out?
I think it's a mixture of things. I mean, foremost for me, it's not about the money. It's very much about my passion for stories, the objects. It's actually just as thrilling for me to see the look on someone's face in a very emotional way when we talk about family objects or photographs or whatever. Of course, I think everyone's waiting for the yes, it's worth a fortune.
Yeah.
And that is part of the show, we realise that. And yet at the end of the day, there's so much more to it. So it's a whole mixture of things.
Now, would somebody like to ask Mark a question? Anybody interested in asking Mark something? I'm just going to the crowd.
What's the most valuable antique you've kept past?
Most valuable antique, Mark?
The most valuable antique that I've priced, what, on the show or in general? On the show? Well, the year before last, this is quite a long story in fact, but it happened over a long time. I found a camera about 12 years ago, a very rare Leica 2 Luxus camera in Bridgend, and last year it sold for $600,000. Which was not a small amount of money. In fact, actually, up until that point, it was the most valuable thing ever found on the show. It has since been superseded.
The next author came complete with a life-size giant. He had been reading his book about the giant and his brother to a group of local children.
You were on the afternoon show as your book was published. I think that was just before Christmas,
November time.
So how's that been going?
It's been amazing, really. It's difficult for us to confirm it absolutely, but we think we've been the best-selling book in Bristol since that period. In that period, we sold 2,000 copies, which has been unbelievable. It's been the best-selling book in foils in Bristol and Waterstones. Whilst they don't run a chart for children's authors, we think we've sold more than any other author in that time in the 2 stores in Bristol as well. So
this is all set, I think I'm right in saying, in the Avon Gorge.
Yeah, exactly. So this tells a story. It's an old myth that tells the story of how the Avon Gorge was built. And it was 2 giants that fell in love with a princess, and she set them a task to see which one of them she would marry. And they had to empty a lake into the sea, which used to sit between Bristol and Bradford-upon-Avon. And it tells the story of them digging the trenches, the gorges out to empty that lake. And ultimately you have one winner and one loser, but you have to leave it there to see which one
So we're going to be chatting now with Alison Knight. She's a debut author from the West, and we'll talk to her about what it's like getting that first book published. Her book is called Off the Record, and it's under a pen name, Alison Rose. Hello, Alison.
Hello.
Now, your book Off the Record is about a journalist. Why a journalist?
It didn't actually start off like that. It started off as a story about her mother reconnecting with her childhood sweetheart. And when I first sent it off to publishers, they said, we prefer a younger heroine, so write the daughter's story.
Right.
And so I had the daughter going along as a journalist to interview a rock star who just happened to be mother's childhood sweetheart. And it's been through 2 or 3 different rewrites, and it's now both their love stories. So.
And a journalist, I mean, journalists generally have quite interesting stories, don't they? Quite interesting lives. So was that sort of from experience, or was that just this person that you created in your head?
It was just the person I created in my head. I mean, I have done some non-fiction work and written for magazines and things in my day job as a charity fundraiser, but I don't have any journalistic training, no.
And at what point did you find out that this book was going to be published? Because that must have been amazing.
It was wonderful. I had an appointment with a publisher at a writers' conference last summer, and she'd seen the first 50 pages, said, we like it, send some more. And within a week, they'd come back and said, we want the 3 books that you've submitted to us. So it was amazing after all those years.
Bristol-born stand-up comedian Mark Watson was the last author in the lineup. Although he was appearing in his one-man show, simply called Flaws, at the Playhouse in Weston, it was as an author that he came to Clevedon. He has no less than 6 books to his writing credit.
But you have, and we have a pile of about 1,000 of your books here. You are a writer as well.
Yes, I'd forgotten how many books I'd written until I saw them all stacked up. Right, you quite rarely see your own books. I've got quite a few copies of them, or originally they always send you copies of your own books, but then you tend to give them away or get rid of them. There's no real, especially those large print ones. I don't know if I've ever seen that large print version or not. If you could be mistaken for, you could be forgiven to think I've had sort of quite a productive career when you live about part of the books. Really. It doesn't normally feel like it when I'm actually living it. But yes, this is probably the biggest collection. I've written 6 books, but it's very rare you see them all together. So this is kind of like a family reunion.
Do you ever go and look at your books, say in a bookshop or in a library?
Actually, I did used to. When the first couple of books I had published, I could never quite get past the novelty of, so I would sometimes sneak into. These days I don't do it so much because if the bookshop doesn't have it, it's a bit crushing. And also, I'm alphabetically next to Sarah Waters, who they're always, well, she's much too good to be next to her, yeah. So I'm always conscious I'm not even the most popular author whose name begins W-A-T. So if I just go into a random bookshop, the chances are there'll be about 26 of Waters' novels and another. My mum, on the other hand, not only still looks, but she actually polices it. She goes around bookshops moving my books to more prominent positions, and sometimes even puts them onto shelves where it says things like offer of the week and stuff where they're not meant to be. Well, I shouldn't really be saying this on local radio because it's in Bristol where my mum's field of operations is, but any bookshop in this area, my mum has at some point tampered with your displays to my benefit.
Thank you very much indeed for being my guest today in Clevedon Library. A round of applause for and thanks to Clevedon Library for hosting us as well.
Last December's Hill Road late shopping evening, complete with a hog roast outside the market at Seeley's, proved to be a popular event with many people. But a vocal minority were disappointed that it wasn't a full-blown St Nicholas Fair event, as in days of yore. Well, okay, a few years ago. Many had apparently arrived expecting the road to be closed and for fairground rides to be available for their children. The Facebook group Everything Clevedon took up the cudgel and started an online campaign to resurrect the fair once again. And this resulted in a meeting being called at the Hill Road Market, at which about a couple of dozen people attended.
the objective of today's meeting is very simple. It's just that we require the support and desire to reintroduce the fair in a format to be decided. We're not here just to say, oh, let's get the Hill Road Fair back, let's get a load of charity stalls and a roundabout and some sweets and get on with it. I think it needs to be a lot more thought about and probably a lot different to that. The things required to be done: permission for the road to be closed from North Somerset Council. That used to be fairly easy until about 2007, when they demanded to see a copy of the charter that grants the right for Hill Road to be closed to traffic for 1 day a year. And somebody found the charter in Clevedon Library, which was quite a good result. So the charter does exist and the right is there.
The meeting was then given a detailed rundown of the many requirements needed to stage the event, and many of the shopkeepers who were present gave their views as to the pros and cons of holding the fair. Problems like petty theft and vandalism were mentioned. Some suggestions were made by others present, including the thought that the event might be held in the summer, when there was a better chance of the weather being fine. The weather hadn't been very kind in the past, apparently. By the end of the meeting, a committee of 7 had been formed, and an agreement was reached that a feasibility study would be undertaken to see if these scenes of 2008 can be repeated. Say, this Christmas?
We're going to go on holiday again for another 50 weeks.
Up until now, the reasons for the closing of Highdale Road are not very evident. The road, outside St Nicholas Chantry School, is blocked by cones and a grey porter cabin, which seems to house a workman's restroom. These views of the architect's drawing of the project show precisely what is being built at the school. The area, coloured grey, being 4 new classrooms to accommodate an ever-increasing student population in the coming years. Meanwhile, it is planned to keep the road closed for the foreseeable future, despite the inevitable traffic jams in the Old Street area. The recently announced decision to close the market has been a very difficult one for the organisers. They say that the Saturday market is buzzing and very successful, but sadly 1 busy day a week is not enough to meet the increasing and challenging overheads that a building like Seeley's faces. Following the shop's opening ceremony by owner Michael Seeley in May 2013, the project proved to be extremely successful. But the continued parking problems in Hill Road mean that during the week the footfall has become incredibly low, and as such the market has suffered hugely. The market organisers are sure that the local community will be very sorry to lose the market, and they would like to thank everyone who has supported them over the last 2 years. This market must be Clevedon's oldest, starting as it did in 1952. Since then it has been open for business one day a week. Nowadays it opens its doors here at the barn on Great Western Road every Friday for 1 hour between 2:30 and 3:30.
Why don't I have them now?
On the day that we visited, there were only 4 stalls on duty, selling dairy produce, homemade jams, fresh meats and mouth-watering cakes.
Normally we have, when it's in season, we've got fruit and veg, but of course at the moment, being winter, that's another. And we've normally got crafts as well, but saying that again, the lady's away sick at the moment, so we haven't got any crafts to be shown.
And you say you're always indoors, you don't go outside?
No, we're always indoors.
So you're in competition with the farmers market, I suppose?
Well, I suppose so, yes, but being we're on the Friday, they're normally on the Saturday.
It's doing neither of them any good, because you've got to get...
All the produce is locally produced, mostly by the stallholders themselves. They work as a cooperative, and they all share the cost of running the venture.
Well, we take commission, you see, 10% commission off of everybody, and that helps then to pay for the rent of the hall weekly, and go through anything else we might need, yes we do. And then, as I said, we take 10% of what people sell, and they have the rest back. But we could always do with more cooks and more produce.
Thank you very much.
Teas are also on sale, just the thing to wash down one of those delicious cakes.
Right, that's fine.
A second chance to see a rehearsal of this ever-popular Gilbert and Sullivan opera, this time with some scenery on stage and the cast now resplendent in their colourful costumes.
In the evening of a day, with the sun of light declining, we recall with unrecalling all the change of light on moon. We recall without repining all the deeds. We recall all the heat of bygone noon. Is the autumn of our life, is the evening of our day. Weary of battle strife, weary of mortal fray. But our year is not so spent, and our days are not so faded, but that we with one consent, were on loving land invaded, still would face our foreign foe, as in days of long ago. Still would face our foreign foe, as in days of long ago. As in days of long ago, as in days of long
The show starts on Wednesday the 18th of this month and runs till Saturday the 21st.
I have a song to sing, oh.
Sing me your song, oh.
It is sung to the moon by a lovelorn moon who fled from the mocking throng, oh. It's the song of a merry man, moping mum, whose soul was sad and whose glance was glum, who sipped no sup and who craved no crumb as he sighed for the love of a lady. Haidee, Haidee, misery me, lack-a-day-dee. He sipped no sup and he craved no crumb as he sighed for the love of a lady.
I have a song to sing, oh.
Sing me your song,
oh. It is sung with a ring of the songs they sing for love with a love lifelong. Oh, it's a song of a merry maid, peerly proud, who loved her lord, who laughed aloud at the moan of a merry man, moping mum, whose soul was sad and whose glance was glum, who sipped no sup and he craved no crumb as he sighed for the love of a lady. Haidee, Haidee, misery me, lack-a-day-dee. He sipped no sup and he craved no crumb as he sighed for the love of a lady.
I have a song to sing, oh.
Sing your song, oh.
It is sung to the knell of a churchyard bell and a doleful dirge ding-dong, oh. It's a song of a popinjay bravely burnt, one who turned up his noble nose with scorn at the humble merry maid, peerly proud, who loved her lord and who laughed aloud at the moan of the merry man, moping mum, whose soul was sad and whose glance was glum, who sipped no sip and craved no crumb as he sighed for the love of a lady. Haidee, Haidee, misery me, lack-a-day-dee. He sipped no sup and he craved no crumb as he sighed for the love of a lady.
I have a song to sing, oh.
Sing me your song, oh.
It is sung with a sigh and a tear in the eye, for it tells of a right and wrong. Oh, it's a song of a merry maid, one so gay, who turned on a hill and tripped away from the peacock popinjay bravely born, who turned up his noble nose with scorn at the humble heart that he did not prize. So she begged on her knees with downcast eyes for the love of a merry man, moping mum, whose soul was sad and whose glance was glum, who sipped no sup and craved no crumb as he sighed for the love of a lady. Haidee, Haidee, misery me, lack-a-day-dee. He sang no more and he sighed no more, for he lived in the love of a lady. Haidee, Haidee, misery me,
Lack-a-day-dee, his pains were o'er and he sighed no more, for he lived in the love of a